Okay, welcome back, guys. It is time for the writing part of this assignment. So we're going to review really specifically how to write sentence by sentence a claim evidence reasoning paragraph. I know you've done it before. I know I've taught it before. We've been out of school for a long time. Let's review it. Here we go. We'll be using the strategy for the 6-sentence claim evidence reasoning paragraph. And here are our 6 sentences. Each one of these has a very specific job to do in the sentence. And if you can be aware of that, it'll be easier to produce a paragraph because it's just a sentence at a time, and each sentence has its own job to do. Let's look at the jobs. The intro sentence, the claim sentence, the evidence sentence, reasoning sentence number 1, reasoning sentence number 2, and reasoning sentence number 3. 6 sentences: intro, claim, evidence, reasoning 1, reasoning 2, reasoning 3. Put it all together and you've got a really nice claim evidence reasoning paragraph. Let's go through one sentence at a time, and I'll show you how to do this using the article that we read today. Here's a small copy of the article, and in the green box, that's where our intro sentence is going to go. What an intro sentence does, what its job is that it lets your reader know what this is going to be about. It's just really simple. You're introducing what you're going to write about. And this is a pretty solid way to start an intro sentence when you're talking about something that you've read. You say the article, because we read an article. If it was a poem, we would say the poem. If it was a novel, we'd say the novel. But we read an article, so we're going to say the article. Now I'm going to put the title of the article in quotation marks with the question mark inside because the question mark is part of the title. I'm just going to copy it right from there. And the first letter of each word should be capital. The article, Would We Be Killed, close it up, by Lauren Tarshis. Lauren Tarshis is the author. Go ahead and hit pause, and then scroll down to the empty box on your screen and just type this right into your box. You're going to start typing your sentence right now. The article, Would We Be Killed, by Lauren Tarshis. Just pause and type it. Okay, and now let's finish up this sentence. So you've already typed the article, Would We Be Killed, by Lauren Tarshis, is about. What is it about? Well, boarding schools mostly. So that's the first thing I put. Boarding schools. You can type that too. The article, Would We Be Killed, by Lauren Tarshis, is about boarding schools. But don't put a period yet. We've got more to say. We're going to add what kind of boarding schools these were. So we're going to say for Native American children. And you capitalize the N and the A in Native American. For Native American children. We're still not done. These boarding schools don't exist anymore, so we need to be really clear about that in this intro sentence, but we just want to do it really short. So here's how we'll do that. In the 1800s. That's all you need to let your reader know that this happened in the past. Where did I get in the 1800s? I got it right out of the text, right from there. And now our intro sentence is done. It reads, the article, Would We Be Killed, by Lauren Tarshis, is about boarding schools for Native American children in the 1800s. whoops again. Go ahead and pause and type that whole sentence into your box. We've already got part of it, type the rest of it, and then read it over, make sure it makes sense. The article, Would We Be Killed by Lauren Tarshis, is about boarding schools for Native American children in the 1800s. Go ahead and type that intro sentence into your box. Great. So we've got one sentence down and 5 more to go. Let's move ahead to the claim sentence. A claim sentence tells your reader one simple thing that you believe based on what you read in the text. So again, a claim sentence tells your reader just one simple thing that you believe based on what you read in the text. Now I'm going to make this easy for you guys. I'm going to give you the claim, and all you have to do is just type it right in. We're not going to focus on making our own claim right now. We're going to focus more on the evidence and reasoning part. So you can just copy this claim right here. And there it is. It's very simple. These boarding schools were harmful to their students. That's enough of a claim. That can count as a claim. These boarding schools were harmful to their students. Go ahead and pause. Hit 1 space after the last sentence you typed and just type this in right after it. Don't do a hard enter after each sentence. Put just a space between each sentence. Pause, type a space, type this sentence in, and then we'll move on to our next sentences. Okay, we've got our intro sentence, we've got our claim sentence, and now it's time for our evidence sentence. Here we go. An evidence sentence shows your reader a quote from the text that supports your claim. And you know this already, but I'll just remind you, evidence must come from the text. It can't just be like what we think. That comes later. It's got to come from the text. So I've looked through the text and I've decided I'm going to focus on page 12, right here where this heading says homesick. I picked homesick because I have a feeling that's going to have the best evidence to support our claim that these boarding schools were harmful to children, because this headline, this heading talks about something sad. Let's zoom in and reread our textual evidence and see what we can find. Okay, I'm going to read this again. Even though we read the article, it's helpful to reread when we're writing about it. Homesick. What was it really like for young children to be sent so far away from their families? Most became very homesick. Many fought back against the strict rules. Others tried to run away. Still, the U.S. government opened other schools like Carlisle, and parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. Parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. I mean, that's bad. By the early 1900s, tens of thousands of Native American children were at boarding schools. All of these schools punished students for being late to class. Some schools even beat the children for not speaking English. Meanwhile, students lived in crowded buildings. Deadly diseases spread easily. Hundreds of Native American children died. Okay, well, there's a lot of evidence in there that's going to prove our claim that these boarding schools were harmful to children. I'm going to pick one that's a little harder to do so that I can demonstrate how to do it. I'm going to actually choose this evidence right here. Parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. That's the evidence I'm going to choose for mine. So here is a really solid sentence starter for any evidence sentence. I'm starting it with for example, because I'm about to give an example. In the article, it says, and I've just introduced it. I've got a comma right there. I want you to type this too, and I want you to include your comma. So go ahead and pause and type that. In the article, it says, comma. You can use this same quote if you want to, but you don't have to. You can pick a different quote. This is the quote I'm going to use for the example. Parents were no longer asked to send their children, they were forced. So I copy it right into my own sentence, but I absolutely must include quotations. Otherwise, I'm copying somebody else's work and saying that it's mine. So the quotation marks must go around everything that came directly from the text. Never ever copy something directly from the text without citing it and quoting it. So this is the quoting. I'm going to show you how to cite in a minute. I keep circling these because they're so important. I see this all the time, you guys. You find great textual evidence and you use it just beautifully in your writing, but you don't include the quotation marks, and that could get you in trouble later on down the line. That's called plagiarism, when you take somebody else's writing and pass it off as your own. Quotation marks are so important. And there are a lot of different ways to do a citation. I'm going to show you the simplest, easiest way, which is simply to put parentheses, the letter P, which stands for page, and then the page number that the evidence came from, and then you close the quotes. There's other ways to do this, but we're going to use this one for today. Anytime you're just writing a paragraph for your teacher, just the parenthetical with the letter P and the page number is good enough. All right. And there is our evidence sentence. For example, in the article it says, parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. Page 12. Well, look at that. 3 out of 6. We are halfway done. We've got our intro sentence. We've got our claim sentence. We just wrote our evidence sentence. And the whole rest of it is reasoning. Reasoning, reasoning, reasoning. To do a really good, really solid CER paragraph, it should be CER, lots of R's. Reasoning, reasoning, reasoning. This is the CE part. All right, so let's talk about reasoning. How do we do this? Reasoning sentence number 1 just takes the evidence that you already found and it restates it in your own words. So there's that evidence sentence we wrote. There it is again. For example, in the article it says, parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. All right. So that's in the article's words. All we're going to do here in this box is just say it again in our own words. I don't know what I'm doing here, but it sure is fun. Whee! All right, here we go. Saying it again in our own words. I'm going to start with a word from the quote, which is parents. And I'm going to write the parents did not want. The parents didn't want to. They didn't want to what? What did the parents not want to do? Their children to go to the boarding schools. The parents did not want their children to go to the boarding schools. I'm not done yet. I'm going to say one more thing. So since my sentence is already kind of long, but I still have one more thing to say, I'm going to put that comma, which gives the reader a chance to slow down and take a breath. And then I'm going to put the word but, which is a transition word. And it's going to transition us from this part of the sentence to the next part of the sentence. The parents did not want their children to go to the boarding schools, but the government made them go anyway. So there's my reasoning sentence number 1. It reads, the parents did not want their children to go to the boarding schools, but the government made them go anyway. It's saying the same thing that the evidence says. Oh, why do I keep doing that? But it says it in my own words. And there we go. Reasoning sentence 1 is done. All we had to do was restate the evidence in our own words. Now let's move on to reasoning sentence 2. Now in this sentence, you're going to explain what you think your evidence means. So I think we better put those last 2 sentences up here so we'll know what we're talking about. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now we know what we're talking about. So we had an evidence sentence where I just took it right from the text. And then we had reasoning sentence number 1 where I restated it in my own words. I just kind of said it the way that I would say it. So we've got this second reasoning sentence where I have to say what I think that means. So not only do I have to restate it, which I did here, I have to say what I think it means. So I guess the first thing I'm going to type is, that means, okay, now what does it mean? The parents did not want their children to go to boarding schools, but the government made them go anyway. Okay, so that means that the families are being separated, forcefully separated. You guys know what separated means, right? It's like when you are not with somebody anymore, when you're taken away from them, you're separated. Okay, I think I know how I'm going to do this. That means that families were forced to separate. That means that families were forced to separate. I want you to notice how reasoning really just kind of takes the same idea and then builds it in a bunch of different ways to really make the point. It's not enough to kind of just say 1 or 2 words or 1 sentence. You've got to really, really like give your reader a talking puppet show and really drag that out. For example, here I'm going to reread all of this together now just to show you how it's basically the same thing, but it's kind of building. Each sentence builds on the one before it. Here we go. For example, in the article it says, parents were no longer asked to send their children. They were forced. Reasoning sentence number 1, the parents did not want their children to go to boarding schools, but the government made them go anyway. Reasoning sentence number 2, that means that the families were forced to separate. And just like that, I only have 1 sentence left to write. Here we go. Reasoning sentence number 3 is the hardest and the most important one. It has so much work to do. It has to connect our evidence and our earlier parts of the reasoning. So reasoning sentences 1 and 2 and the evidence, it has to connect that to our claim. We have to explain what this even has to do with this. Up here I said these boarding schools were harmful to their students. And then I explained how they separated the families and how they did it by force. But that's not enough. I can't just leave it there and expect my reader to connect the dots. Readers really need that puppet show. They really, really need that explanation. So it's going to connect, it's going to explain, and it's going to conclude. We're just going to tie it all up in a neat little package. So let me read what I have so far. My claim is these boarding schools were harmful to their students. And then I talk about how the families were separated. So I'm going to start by just restating what they were doing. Taking children away from families by force. That's what is bad? Sucks? No, I need to say something more serious than that. But I like that taking children away from their families by force. I'm off to a good start. I'm going to get a little bit detailed, I guess. I said would have caused. Taking children away from their families by force would have caused. What would it have caused? I'm going to keep it simple for my reader, and I'm just going to list the kinds of feelings it would have caused. Sadness, anger, and fear. Taking children away from their families by force would have caused sadness, anger, and fear. I've got more to say, so I'm not going to put that period there yet. I am going to put a comma. Otherwise, that would be one glorious run-on sentence. It's kind of long as it is, but I put that comma. And I'm just going to add, just to really hit home the word harmful in my claim and connect it down here in my reasoning 3 sentence, I'm going to add, which is more harmful than anything good the schools were trying to do. So let me reread that and make sure it makes sense. Taking children away from their families by force would have caused sadness, anger, and fear, which is more harmful than anything good the schools were trying to do. Okay, I think that says what I wanted it to say. And that is it. We wrote a 6-sentence claim, evidence, reasoning paragraph. We did that one together. And I want you to now use part of what we did together to write your own. Here we go. This is what you should have so far. The intro sentence, the article, Would We Be Killed by Lauren Tarshish, is about boarding schools for Native American children in the 1800s. And then our claim sentence, these boarding schools were harmful to their students. And then a sentence starter for your evidence. For example, in the article it says, now I took that quotation about separating the children from their parents, but you can pick a different one if you want to. Or you can pick the same one that I picked. But I want the reasoning to be your own work. Restate the quote in your own words. That means your own words, not the ones that I showed you here. And then you're going to explain what your quote means, what your evidence means. And whoopsie doodles, I need to fix that. Hold on a second. Okay, that's better. So that final reasoning sentence, reasoning number 3, connects your other 2 reasonings and your evidence back to the claim. You're going to want to have the word harmful included there somehow, and you're going to want to really connect that. All right, it's time to try this on your own. You might want to just pause and keep this screen up to help you. Maybe I can make these as graphic organizers too and just attach them some other way. Please, please, please message me if this is too hard or too confusing. Don't try to make it perfect, just try to make it the best that you can do. And if you send it to me early enough in the week, I can send it back to you with feedback and give you some pointers, give you a chance to fix it up, or just let you know how awesome you did. And that is all I have for today. Go forth and write me something beautiful. Have a great day. Goodbye.